Joining us now is Cliff Sims from the White House, a special assistant to President Trump. Cliff, great to have you with us.
One of my favorite memories from Election Day was me and my buddy Andy Sarabian sitting down with you in the lobby of Trump Tower there and going to town for an hour or two. So glad to be back on with you today.
Hey, Cliff, that was a lot of fun. You know, I just, as you were saying it, I was kind of remember you guys came in and you guys were really busy that day, and you guys came in and we're like, okay, we'll do 10 minutes. And you guys stayed for an hour. We couldn't get you up. You guys were taking phone calls. and finally, I think somebody came in. I don't know if it was, I think it was Justin or somebody came in and said, hey, you got to get these guys back at the desk, like their phone's ringing off the hook. But look, you guys were fabulous, and all three of us were predicting the win that day, and nobody else was except us. And
that's right.
So
that's right. We
remember that?
We knew because we had our finger on the pulse of what the country was actually thinking out there.
I know, it was a lot of fun. And then I remember Kellyanne walked in, and you guys were on the air. She did a triple take, and then she just shook her head and went to her office. I remember that. I'll never forget the Liz. Like, what are you guys doing there? I said, look, we're firing up the base, Kellyanne. We got everybody in the country listening to us. We're firing them up. And she's like, okay, well, that's good. And she goes. So that was a lot of fun. But look, Cliff, we just got to call this as it is. I was on a conference call, White House conference call yesterday, and I didn't realize the unbelievable credentials of Mike Pompeo. First in his class as a West Point graduate, very high in his class, Harvard Law School, served in the United States Army, patrolled the Berlin Wall, face-to-face with the East Germans and the Russians, and he's had an unbelievably distinguished career as a public servant, no question. And Tom Cotton yesterday, Senator Cotton, was pretty confident in his confirmation. But, I mean, you look at this guy's credentials and you say, I don't know how you could get somebody more qualified for this job.
Well, I think even Democrats would concede that. I mean, in hours and hours of questioning on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, there wasn't a single question related to his qualifications, his ability, or preparedness to do the job. And it really comes down to Democrats breaking with all of historical precedent and just being partisans and letting politics get in the way of American national security and foreign policy. I mean, John, I don't know if you realize this. I certainly didn't until I kind of got into it here, but John Kerry was confirmed 94-3. Hillary Clinton was confirmed 94-2. Condoleezza Rice was confirmed 85-13, and Colin Powell was confirmed unanimously by voice vote. So there's your recent history on Secretary of State. It's always been a position that Republicans, Democrats alike said, you know what, we've got to put politics aside because America's national security, our diplomacy, our foreign policy is too important for all of that. And now we've suddenly reached this bizarre moment in history where Democrats loathe Donald Trump and everything he stands for so much that they would be willing to jeopardize American diplomacy in light of what has just happened in North Korea with Mike Pompeo going over there for that, really remarkable secret mission, so to speak, to North Korea, and with everything that's happening there and in Syria and all over the world, that they would let politics get in the way of American national security. It's really unconscionable, but we're optimistic that they're going to come to the table and do the right thing, which is to confirm Mike Pompeo next week.
According to Tom Cotton, Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, you have the votes. He was pretty optimistic about it yesterday. Obviously, he has to say that in a conference call with reporters, so I kind of got it. But look, there's a chance, unprecedented, that he might not get out of the Foreign Relations Committee with a majority. But Senator Cotton said they're still bringing him to the floor, and he was going to win there. But, you look at the partisan aspect of this, and, even in Virginia, even though he ran for vice president, I mean, he's normally a pretty level-headed guy, Tim Kaine. He's voting no, and I never really got a straight answer out of him. It's like, voting no, why? Do you think he's not qualified? Well, I don't think he's got the temperament. What do you mean the temperament? What exactly does that mean? Maybe people didn't think that you had the temperament to run for vice president. What does that mean? He doesn't have the temperament. I mean, the guy, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, no, it comes down to the fact that there is really no logical, real explanation for why you would not confirm Mike Pompeo. There's not a single one. Talking about temperament, here's a guy who the President of the United States looks around him and says, you know what, I can get anybody in the United States of America to go do a sensitive diplomatic mission on my behalf. And he chose one person. He chose Mike Pompeo. Mm-hmm. And he sent him to North Korea to have an unprecedented sit-down with the leader of North Korea and lay the groundwork for what is, by all accounts, one of the most important diplomatic maneuvers that we have seen in generations. I mean, what is happening right now on the Korean Peninsula, as you know, John, is already unprecedented in many ways, in that the president has been able to build this global coalition that includes China and others coming to the table and isolating the North Korean regime to the point that they finally have to come to the table and say, okay, let's talk, let's work this out, signaling a willingness to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Imagine the effect that that's going to have on not just our allies in South Korea, not just our allies in Japan, but frankly, the American people who live on the West Coast and others who are growing more and more concerned about what it looks like if North Korea is able to really develop the capabilities to park a nuclear ballistic missile on the mainland United States. I mean, that is something that just cannot stand. We cannot allow that. And so this president, doing what he does, he's a negotiator, he's a deal maker, is now has gotten us to a point that there is a real chance for denuclearization. Mike Pompeo is a huge part of that. He's already deeply invested in the talks that are happening over there. For Democrats to even consider not confirming him in light of all of that is just absolutely insane. And so I would hope that Senator Kaine, I would hope that Senator Warner, I would hope that others in your listening audience, senators who have expressed reservations, would really come to their senses and realize this is just too important to let politics get in the way.
Well, it's almost criminal behavior the way the Democrats are politicizing this when you look at his track record, when you look at Pompeo's history, when you look at his qualifications. And it's just not an honest vote. You know, you were talking about some of the other nominees for Secretary of State. You forgot Colin Powell, who didn't even have a vote. He got 100 hands up. Like, there was no opposition.
Unanimous voice.
It was unanimous. They didn't even have a vote. And look, the Senate just confirmed him as CIA director. Did he do anything bad in that job? Did he not fulfill his expectations? Did he not show up for work? I mean, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He was a great CIA director in the tenure he had. So what is the reason now to not endorse him or vote for him for Secretary of State? Nothing but partisan nonsense. And I'm telling you, Cliff, the Democrats are snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Because average people are looking at this and they're like, the hell's your problem with Pompeo? It's average people. Doesn't make any sense to them. And the Democrats overplaying their hand. And I want to get your assessment here. 2 weeks ago, I thought it was zero chance that the Republicans can keep the House. You know, Ryan's gone, all the retirements, history of the midterms after a new president comes in. You know, average loss is like 40 seats. Poll numbers, the legacy media blasting the president 24/7. Zero chance. Now, in 2 weeks, I'm putting it at about 35%. I think you look at the generic polls have closed, and now the Democrats are playing politics with the Secretary of State. They're overplaying their hand on that. They want to raise your taxes. I think the Republicans have an outside chance to keep the House. I do today.
Well, and I totally agree, and I think to your point, historically, midterm elections like this and the first kind of midterms after a presidential election are tough for whatever the majority party is, whatever the party is that is in the White House, and so you've got some historical headwinds to deal with. But if you're just a regular American out there looking around, you say to yourself, my gosh, I've got more money in my pocket. I've got more job opportunities. I'm having a chance to create a better life for my future, for my kids' future, for my family's future. I feel safer. ISIS is dang near wiped off of the face of the earth. The border is locked down. We're getting these drugs off the street. Issue after issue after issue. I've got Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. I had the most judicial nominees confirmed in a single year in history, rolling back regulations on businesses at an unprecedented rate. And now I've got a foreign policy where America has finally reestablished itself on the world stage. I look at all of that and I say, my gosh, why would I not want more of that? I don't want less of that. I want more of that. And so I agree with your assessment that, Democrats continue on the way that they are. It's going to be a really, really tough year for them.
I think the same thing. I tell you what, you look at the fact that they are now being honest about raising taxes if they get in. I mean,
Right.
you talk about doubling down on a losing hand. I mean, first of all, they go for 7 months and they lie to the American people, and so does my network and others in the legacy media. They lie to the American people about this tax cut. They say it isn't any good. They say it's not going to materialize. They say it's not there. They say, it's all for the rich. So they lie about that, where 85% of the people are getting something. They lie about that. They're going to get caught in the lie. But now they double down, and people are getting more money. They're getting better jobs. They're getting raises. Wages are up. Bonuses are up. They're secure. Kids are moving out of the basement. And now they double down and say, well, if you elect us, this tax cut, it's not big enough. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to repeal it and then raise your taxes. I mean, that's their platform. Right.
Right.
Let's get back to 1% growth and we can all put a sweater on again.
That's right. Well, one of the most interesting things I've seen since working at the White House is the correspondence that we get from the American people, that hundreds of thousands of letters flowing into the White House, and there's an office that's set up that kind of handles all of that stuff. And I've had a chance to go over there, and on a regular basis, I make sure that kind of see what people are saying out there, and the president reads a lot of that stuff and responds to a lot of it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has responded to some of those letters in the press briefing room. But one of the things that I've noticed is we're getting a lot of letters from the exact people that you're talking about, people who say something to the effect of, I heard for months that if this passed, it was only going to go to the wealthiest, the rich people out there were only going to get help, and I wasn't going to get anything. It was going to hurt me. And then the first paycheck that I got this year, I had an extra $250 in it. And that comes out to an extra $500 a month, an extra $6,000 a year. And I'm just thinking about what I'm going to be able to do with that. Or people who are taking advantage of the doubling of the child tax credit and things like that, just everything that goes along with the tax bill. Or they got a $1,000, $2,000 bonus from their company because they got a corporate tax cut as well. And people are just shocked. They're just shocked. And they said, I was lied to. And now that I know the truth, again, I want more of this. I don't want it taken away from me. So I agree with you on that, John. That's going to be a tough argument for Democrats to make. And let's be honest, they got a little bit too far out over their skis because they forgot that in this particular lie that people were going to easily be able to prove it wrong because they were going to get their paycheck and immediately go look at the bottom line and see if they had more or less money, and doggone it if they didn't have more money in their paycheck. So they got caught in this one pretty bad.
I mean, who designed that strategy, right? I mean, here's a lie that you perpetrate on the American people, knowing that the clock is going to run out, the onion's going to get peeled back, you're going to get a paycheck, you're going to do your taxes, you're going to pay a lot less money, and you're going to say, well, they've been lying to me for a year. I mean, what was the political calculus for this? It's unbelievable.
Not savvy, I'll say that.
It's certainly not savvy. You're on the John Frederick Radio Network, Trucking the Truth across America. We're with Cliff Sims. He's a special assistant to the President of the United States. He's live in the White House today, and boy, there's a lot going on. So when do you think we're going to get a vote on Mike Pompeo?
Well, right now it looks like on Monday we'll have a vote in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and then probably later next week it'll come to the floor for a full vote. And look, we're going to get him confirmed, as Senator Cotton said yesterday. But I just can't help but feel like, even in this hyper-partisan atmosphere, that this is an opportunity for Democrats to come to the table and be statesmen, have a chance to show a willingness to put politics aside and work for the better of the country and cast a vote to confirm Mike Pompeo. So maybe I haven't been in the swamp long enough, John. Maybe I'm not cynical enough. But I can't help but feel some optimism that folks are going to come to the table and do the right thing.
Cliff Sims, I think you're spot on. I think when it moves to the full floor, you're going to get a number of Democratic votes. I think you're going to get Doug Jones of Alabama. You're going to get Joe Manchin of West Virginia. You're going to get Heidi in North Dakota. You might get Claire McCaskill in Missouri. By the way, all states where Trump won big majorities, they're all up for re-election. And every single state is well over 50%. So that might be playing into it, except for Doug Jones. I think he's up in 2020. But
yeah, that's right.
So I think that's how it goes. But Cliff, it's great to have you on. Do me a favor, just send me an email because I lost track of your stuff, and at john@jfradioshow.com when we get off the air, so we can stay in touch. John@jfradioshow.com. Everybody's got that, and we get about 500 emails a day, but somebody else reads them.
Well, good. Well, I think you have my buddy Tony Sayegh coming on the show too. Is that right?
We just had Tony on. Tony's an FOJ, friend of John for life, and
oh, got it. I love
we just
Tony.
had him on.
Tony and I did the tax reform push together. We ran the communications for it, so that's my man.
It's a good deal of fun, and I have a draft Tony Say for White House Communications Director for him. So we're trying to draft him for that job. So hopefully he can go from Treasury over to the White House. Hey man, thanks for being with us, Cliff. Great to talk to you. Send me your info via email. I really appreciate it. And we'll never forget that morning where the three of us were on the radio for an hour and taking phone calls, and people were so excited. We were the only three in America saying, look, Trump is going to win today. That's right. There's a classic, man. Right from we were on the 10th floor or something in Trump Tower, right in the lobby.
Yeah, and, that's right. 14th floor. That's right.
14th floor, and I remember at some point the president got off the elevator. He went to greet his staff, and so he gets off. Mr. Trump at the time, and Melania was there, and Ivanka was there. I think Barron was with him, and the door opens, and of course we were right in front of the door. And, of course, he had no idea. So he gets off, and, there's this radio show going on right in front of the elevator, and he did, a triple take. He thought he got off on the wrong floor. Finally, he looks at me and goes,
he said, oh, it's just John. It's just John.
That's,
it's fine.
That's what Ivanka said. Oh, it's just John. He's like Fredericks. So that was so funny. But, look, thanks for being with us, man. I got to go.